Hello guys, welcome back. In the last lecture we discussed about the unique constraint, and in this lecture we will discuss about the not null constraint. So not null constraint ensures that a given column of a table never assigned the null values. By null values I mean the blank values or the columns that do not have any value or unknown value. Okay. And just like unique constraints, sometimes you need to have this constraint in your tables to satisfy some business logics, and with this constraint you can avoid inserting blank values into your table columns. Okay. And sometimes you are sure that you do not need blank values for your columns like name, city, and so on, because these kind of attributes are really helpful for forming some useful or meaningful information. And if you have null values for that, then you might face some difficulties in forming the meaningful information. Okay. So we use not null constraint to avoid such cases. Okay. And here you can see the syntax of adding not null constraint into our table. Here you can see alter table, table name, then alter column, and column name set not null. Okay. So let's try this in our employee table. So switch to the PSQL and first see the details of employees table. Okay. And when you see this, you can see that right now we have only one column set as not null constraint, that is id. Why? Because id is the primary key, and the primary key of a table can never be null, so we need not null constraint, and it is added by default whenever you define the primary key. Okay. Now we need to add the not null column for our let's say name attribute. Okay. So what we will do here, alter table, and then employees, and here alter column, and then provide the column name here, and the column name, let's say name, and here set not null. Okay. And when you run the enter, you will see that the not null constraint has been added to the name column. Okay. And you can verify it in using the details of the employee table. So you will see that now the name is also not null, so you cannot create an employee without providing a value to its name. Okay. And you can still provide the employee code and email as null value. And now let's add the same not null constraint for the city attribute, but here we will get some error. Okay. Why? Because for example, let me show you the all list, all employee list first. Select star from. Okay. So here you can see that we have two employees that do not have values for city and salary. Okay. So if we try to add the not null constraint for city and salary, then we will get an error. Why? Because we already have some employees that do not have any value for this, or that have null values for city and salary attributes, and that violates the null constraint property. Okay. For example, let's try to add the null value for a null constraint for the city. Okay. And when you run this query, you will see an error that column city of relation employee contains null values. Okay. So what we need to do, either we need to remove both of these records from the, sorry, this last record where city and salary is null from the table, or we need to add some value for the city and salary, then we can run this not null constraint query. Okay. So for example, let's delete this row. So what we can do, delete from, this is for deleting the query. Okay. So delete from employees where id equal to 8. Okay. Sorry, 8. And when you run this query, the employee with id 8 will be deleted from the table. Okay. And now you can see the list of employees. So we have all the employees where city and salary present. Okay. So now when you run this set city as not null, so now this query will work. Okay. So now the not null constraint has been added to the city as well, and you can do the same thing for salary too. Okay. And let's do the same thing for email and employee code as well, and then employee code. Okay. Employee code. And now let's describe the table. So slash d students, and here you will see, sorry, we just define the students, and we need to define here employees. Sorry, it was my bad. Now, so here you can see that not null for every attribute set in the nullable column. Okay, so now we cannot create an employee without providing any value for the uh, mentioned attributes. Okay, so let's try to create a employee. So insert into employees, let's say employee code and email. Let's simply use email values and provide the email value only here, ravi@example.com. Okay, now when we will run this insert query, we will get error. Why? Because we are only providing value for email. Okay, we are not providing any value for the employee code, name, city, and salary. So when you run this query, you will see an error that null value in employee code of relation employee violates not null constraint. Okay, that means what we are trying to do, that here you can see that the id is automatically calculated, that is 9, because the last record was the 8. So, and here you can see that employee code is null, name is null, and just the value of email is present here, and no value for city and salary as well. Okay, so now since we have not null constraint added for our all the attributes of employee table, and we are only providing the email values, so we are getting this error. Okay, and if you try to create insert the record like this, for example, let's say employee code, email, sorry, name, email, city, salary, and values, let's say set null for all. Okay, and when you run this query, you will again see error that null values in column employee code of relation, well, it's not null constraint. Okay, so first it is checking the value for employee code, and if you provide value for employee code, then it will check for the name, then for email, then for city, and then for salary, and then for rest of the attributes if you have more attributes. Okay, so this is how the not null constraint work. Okay, so in this lecture we tried adding the not null constraint into an existing table, and we understand that what the not null constraint is and how it works and how we can add it. Okay, so try this lecture at your end, and we will meet into the next lecture. Till then, tata, goodbye, take care, and stay safe.